Hi, this is Brett Lonsdale. I'm here with Sandy Usia. How are you, Sandy?
Very good, thanks. How are you, Brett?
Yeah, doing all right, thank you. Yeah,
Good, good.
it's been a busy week,
Mm,
and in fact, we should probably talk about it's been a busy couple of months because we've not
right.
been really on top of our Lightning Tools chats. Um,
Too
so
busy doing Lightning Tools stuff.
yeah, I guess we won't give the weather forecast for the last
Okay.
couple of months here, but yeah. Anyhow, here we are. So it's very sunny and warm in the UK. It's always
Mm,
sunny and warm this time of year in Florida. Let's get that
right, right.
over and done with. But yeah, it's unusual for September to be warm in the
Mm.
UK. We're having a bit of a heat wave. Thank you to the hurricane that was actually in Florida.
Oh, I didn't realize that was why.
Yeah, it's causing all this warm air to be dragged up from uh,
Um,
the
the hot
south,
water
which
off the
is unusual.
coast, I guess.
Yeah, so I actually did a fairly nice job of washing all the cars last weekend, and this week I went out to the car and it looked like somebody dumped a beach on our cars. And
Oh,
yeah, so it
hey,
rained a
that
bit
was
in
my
the
beach.
yeah, it rained a bit in the night. And basically our atmosphere is full of Sahara Desert at the moment.
Oh, oh.
So yeah, part of the Sahara Desert fell on all the cars. So yeah, it does look like I drove the cars across the beach somewhere.
Oh.
So anyway,
Yeah.
that's that. But yeah, what have we been up to? Well, let's do a quick recap on last month because we did
Sure.
actually do a release of the Data Viewer web part,
Right.
which is something that it's not one of our mainstream products. So it does get lots of love and attention, but we don't shout about it too often. But we do love that product. It's
Mhm.
fantastic, and we've actually done some great work in terms of the data sources, which I think is worth talking about.
Mhm.
So just a very quick recap as to what the Data Viewer is. The Data Viewer is a product that allows you to connect to a SharePoint list, and that list can be anywhere within inside your tenant as long as you have permissions to it. And you can either build a grid view of the content from that list, which is in a sort of row column format, or you can also build a chart as well. So there's all sorts of different charts. There's pie charts, there's tree view charts, there's column charts and line charts, multi-series charts, etc. That you can build on that. So it could work with a SharePoint list, and the advantage of that is quite a sort of common scenario is actually with a contacts list. So if you want a contacts list to be showing up in multiple sites, you don't obviously want to duplicate that contacts list. So you can connect to one and expose it to different pages on different sites, or even on Teams tabs as well, which is useful. But then the data source doesn't stop there. You can also connect to Excel. So those of us who are old enough to remember Excel services,
Right.
yeah, you could connect to an Excel workbook that was stored inside a document library somewhere, and you could expose a sheet of data. You could also expose a chart and so on.
Right. I used to do that.
That's yeah, so that's the sort of thing that you can do also with the data view. So you can connect to an Excel workbook and report on it, which is great because it's not always that you want to give somebody an entire spreadsheet. There may be just certain information on a certain or a table that you want them to have access to, and so on, make that more visible. And that's dynamic. You can refresh it as many times as you like in a day, and it's not going to matter. You can see that content, unlike some things. So yeah, you've got Excel services there. You can also connect to some databases too. So you could go to a SQL database in SQL Azure. So you can select different tables and stored procedures and so on, and build again charts or reports on that content. Which if you use that for any specific reason, it's very good to be able to add conditional formatting and so on to give some form of business intelligence. But then also there's things like XML.
Oh, data too.
Data services and so on too. So yeah, OData services and things like that also that you can connect to. So they were all existing. And something that came up time and time again with the data viewer was, can we connect to on-premises data sources? I've got an Oracle database, or I've got an SQL database, or can I connect to Salesforce or something like that even? And the answer was always no. And our hands were tied because this was built under the SharePoint framework and you didn't have access to external connectors, so we couldn't do it. But then the good guys at Microsoft, they enabled the SharePoint framework to work with external connectors. So we've now created an external connector data source. So you can build out an external connector inside of SharePoint. It could be connecting to Jira, an SQL on-prem database, or an Oracle on-prem database, or whatever you want to connect to virtually. We were tinkering around with it, and we even connected it to, like our website, and it returned all the different pages and so on from our WordPress website and what have you. So there's all sorts of things that you can connect to via that, and then again build a chart or a table on it. The advantage is, if you think of, you are using Salesforce or something and you're onboarding new customers or whatever, not everybody in the organization is necessarily going to have access to Salesforce, but they may actually be interested in knowing how the company's performing, who are we onboarding as customers, what sort of revenue we're producing, and so on. So all of that could be reported through the data viewer now, with the external connectors. So that's a huge advantage of that.
So an administrator would have to build that connector in the M365 admin center, but then a business user can use that in the data viewer web part on a page.
Yeah, and that's actually key, what you just said there as well, was business user, because you may be thinking, well, we've got Power BI, and Power BI can do all of that sort of stuff. So external connectors have always been available to Power BI and so on. Why would I want to use the data viewer? So first of all, this is a web part that you can add to a page inside of a SharePoint site, or it's also an app that you can add to Teams. Now, if you think of the cost of doing that with Power BI, there's actually a big outlay that's not coming under free Power BI in order to be able to do that for all of your users. Whereas, this web part can literally be added onto any page or any team and accessed by many. And it's simple enough for a user to be able to create it. You don't have to have a thorough understanding of BI and so on in order to be able to produce it. So that's really the sort of key advantage there of the data viewer. We created a new chart.
But I was going to say another advantage of the data viewer, I would say, is the ability to connect them to each other, where so you can have parent-child kind of relationship between web parts, or create a dashboard that has like filters at the top using our Lightning filters, for example, and then all of the web parts are dynamic. And as far as I'm aware, you can't get that in the Power BI web part at all.
Yeah, true. And I also think not available is to Power BI is to be able to build charts on aggregated content. So through the web part connections that you just mentioned, you could use our Lightning Conductor to aggregate content. It may be you're aggregating a certain content type that's used throughout your organization and the content created from that content type, or certain list types or libraries, to be able to build a report with filters in place and so on. And then you could connect that to the data viewer in order to be able to chart on that information. That makes for quite a powerful scenario too. And there is a new type of chart. Do you want to spill the beans on that one?
Sure. So in addition to the pie charts, line charts, area charts, all of that, we now offer maps. So if you have geographical data in your list, then you can render that as a map in the data viewer web part. So a couple different ways. One is to have kind of pins, showing the different actual locations. And then also there's the type where you have kind of areas that are colored in different ways, maybe depending on volume of revenue in that region or country, for example, might be a use case for that. So depending on the kind of data you have in your list, but if it is that kind of geographical related data that you're interested in, then you can now create that in the data viewer.
Fantastic. Yeah. So very, very cool. So there's all sorts of different charts now that you can utilize. And
so something like your contacts list that you mentioned before too, you could show how many contacts you have from different countries and things like that.
Yeah, where in the world are our customers, or where's our employees, etc. Yeah, it's really, really useful. Fantastic. So
so that's out.
You can get access to that now. coming is some enhancements to the Lightning Conductor, and
sort of bonus.
yeah, so the Lightning Conductor actually already has the external connectors built in as well. But really sort of it's a different type of product. So we're really talking about aggregated content. So that could be SharePoint lists or libraries aggregated, but you can also connect to the graph entities as well. So things like Power Apps, Planner, Teams, and OneDrive, etc., and build reports on that, or likewise with Jira and so on. So you can build out multiple views inside that same instance of all this content. One of the things we've introduced,
even combine them.
Yes, and combine them too. Yeah. So we've also created adaptive cards for that, which can be used on a Viva Connections page. So the advantage of that could be that there's tasks that are new today, for example, that are assigned to you, and these could be anywhere inside the tenant. Remember, in any SharePoint list. So you could decide, well, I want to show the top 5 of those in a Viva Connections adaptive card. So whether I'm on my mobile phone or if I'm on the Viva page itself, I'll be able to see that information and can drill down into it to where that content lives. But that doesn't have to be SharePoint list or library content either. That could also be, planner plans, could be OneDrive items that are shared with you, or it could be again Salesforce customers or new orders generated in a specific database or something like that. Very so cool. Exposing that onto SharePoint is really, really powerful through an adaptive card.
Yeah, and it's a really flexible, very customizable, I would say, adaptive card too, because you can show maybe just like a number, like, you've got 5 new tasks or something like that. You can have it say basically whatever you want it to say, and it's dynamic, and then you can show some of that data and have it be able to click through to show the detail, and then click through again to actually go to the page that has the full Lightning Conductor if you need to, but you might not even need to.
Yeah, absolutely. So excited about that. I think that's going to be a great addition to that product too. So
yeah, we had just come out with a release of Lightning Conductor in July, but so this is kind of a bonus because we're too excited to keep it till the next time.
Don't want to let you wait.
Yeah.
Exactly. Good. So we've also got a webinar coming up this month. Do you want to explain a little bit about that one?
Sure. So we had already planned this one before we decided to have a bonus Lightning Conductor release. So we're doing a non-product webinar 2 weeks from this, and you and I are doing it on out-of-the-box SharePoint lists, so nothing to do with our products this time, but because you and I have both worked with SharePoint for years and years and years, and still love it. We wanted to showcase what you can do with SharePoint lists from the perspective of just building them and working with them, and then also what you can do with maybe some Power Platform and things like that you get for free within your Microsoft 365 tenant. So this will be all about things that you don't need to buy anything for, and give some examples of some solutions that you can build that's part of what you already have.
Yeah, fantastic. So utilizing SharePoint lists and Power Platform as well to build a solution. So all out of the box. Yeah, absolutely. So that should be a great webinar.
Yeah, looking forward to that.
Wonderful. So we've also got a couple of new recruits.
Yeah.
So one of them is new but not so new. So Carl Greenhalgh. If you're a customer of Lightning Tools, you've probably at some point spoken with Carl through tech support. So he's basically gone off and done other things for a couple of years, and he's come back and back in our tech support team. So you may be liaising with Carl again if ever you had that experience. So welcome back, Carl. And then we've got a completely new person that's joined us, another MVP, and his name is Knut. Knut has joined us to help us with our partner channel sales. So he's going to be our partner channel sales manager looking to support and recruit new partners worldwide to help Lightning Tools grow. So yeah, if you're interested in becoming a partner of Lightning Tools and being able to provide value to your customer base using our products, then that's something that Knut can absolutely help you with. So
yep. And you may already know him too from conferences. He's been
exactly.
around the community for quite a long time.
He's a familiar face, absolutely.
Yep.
And speaking of conferences, so
Mm-hmm.
we've got our own conference coming up, or one that Lightning Tools absolutely puts some weight behind, and that is CollabDays. So it's not a Lightning Tools conference, but I'm heavily involved in organizing it. We sponsor it. And we also host it at the National Museum of Computing, which is on Bletchley Park, where the code breaking occurred in World War I and World War II as well. So
I didn't know World War I. I didn't know that part.
yeah, absolutely. So what's really amazing to see, you can go to Bletchley Park, and Bletchley Park has its own museums where you can actually be in the huts where the code breaking occurred, and it wasn't just one man and a machine. It was that there was hundreds, I think possibly thousands of employees that secretly worked in Bletchley Park. People didn't realize that this place existed during the war. And it was a code breaking factory, if you like. So you can see the places where these codes were broken, and the meaning behind all of that. The fact that it effectively shortened the war by 2 years, and that ultimately saved, they estimate, 17 million lives, which is yeah, pretty impressive. So it's an amazing place to see, and part of Bletchley Park is telling the story of that. There's a beautiful mansion and a lake and so on where a lot of that took place. But on the grounds is the National Museum of Computing, and the National Museum of Computing is independent to Bletchley Park, although it's on the grounds, and they host decades of computers, starting with the only working bomb by Alan Turing. So this was the machine, if you like. They don't call it a computer; it's a machine that was used to crack codes and allow the deciphering of messages encrypted by Enigma. So yeah, any German messages that were intercepted could then be understood, and of course that helped with World War II. And then there's also another machine which is hosted there, called Colossus, that is cracking codes from the Lorenz machine. Yeah, also a German device that was used for encryption. So Colossus was able to decipher those messages.
Is it colossal?
It is colossal. Yeah, Colossus is colossal. Yeah, absolutely. So what's amazing about these, you can see a model like of a machine at the Bletchley Park, but in the National Museum of Computing, you can see it working. And what's impressive with Colossus is the fact that nobody knew that this machine existed until, obviously some people did. It wasn't public. That yeah, it was ordered by Sir Winston Churchill to be dismantled after World War II, so that nobody would know of its existence. And it wasn't discovered until the 80s, and all they had was some photographs and some working manuals and so on. And based off of that, they were able to recover a lot of the different parts for it and manufacture different parts to reassemble the machine as it was during World War II. So that can be seen fully working as well. That's operable at the Museum of Computing. And then it goes
people
on.
have sessions right in those rooms, right, at your event.
Exactly, that's the backdrop to the rooms. Awesome. Yeah, it's pretty cool. So there's it then goes from that 40s to 50s. You can see certain machines working again in those areas. There's machines that fill an entire room that have a fraction of the power of my mobile phone. So and then they go up to different storage devices. There's a great big metal disc, which is sort of like the size of the interior of a car, and that stores 4 megabytes of data. So there's things like that you can see there, and then it goes up through. At least a lot of people in the UK will be familiar with this. The 1980s BBC micros. That's effectively what we use to learn computing in our classrooms at school.
They were made by the BBC.
Yeah. Exactly. So they've styled it like a BBC classroom. It's called the BBC Classroom, and you go in, it's like going back to school. It's just like the layout of all these BBCs, BBC micros as they were called. So there's those, and then there's like personal computers as well. So you'll see the start of the personal computers, so the original Acorn, Amstrads, Commodores, and so on, Ataris, etc. So they're all there working. You can play games on them and what have you. And basically it goes on through that. So it's a great place to be. And like I say, you're receiving different sessions on Microsoft 365 in each of these different rooms with those as backdrops. So you don't just get to learn for free. You also get to walk around with a coffee and just see amazing things happening with these machines. And there's volunteers on site that will give you, the history lessons in the machines as well. So
can you imagine? Just thinking about how the people who designed those original computers, if they could even begin to imagine where we are now with computing and everything in the cloud, and like there is a cloud. It's just really fascinating to think about how quickly all of that has happened and is still happening.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's quite incredible. In fact, we're really hoping as well. I was there just a couple of days ago, and I was sat next to Dermot Turing, who is Alan Turing's nephew. And Dermot's written several books. Here's one of them, which is about the bomb and how it works and so on. So that was written by Dermot. And
he spoke last year, right?
He did the keynote. Yeah. So he's going to try, I can't make a promise, but he's going to try to be there on the 27th of September at our event. So you can ask lots of questions about the bomb, or also about his uncle as well, Alan Turing, and so on. So that'd be amazing. If you've seen the animation games, it's going to give you lots of heads up on different questions that you could ask. you can see how well that movie aligns with real life. By speaking to his nephew. So that'd be pretty cool.
Nice.
But yeah, that's our event. It's free to attend. Called CollabDays. You can find it on collabdays.org. Register, and
it's the one called CollabDays Bletchley Park, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Or if you're not in the UK, there's other CollabDays as well that take place in other places too. So I know there's one up in New England, and there's one coming up in Portugal and Oslo and places like that too. So
awesome events always.
Yeah. And then I think, was it just yesterday or the day before, that Ignite?
Yeah, I think it might have been just yesterday. Yeah, it's open for registration, either to attend online, which is free again, which is nice. And that's a 2-day event in mid-November, or you can attend in Seattle. And I'm not sure, I mean, that has a cost associated with it. I think it was around $1,500 or something I saw. And that's a longer event, but also more involved. And I didn't see anything about like whether there's a cap, like I think there was last year, on how many people could come to the one in person. But anyway, I'm not. I did sign up for the online one though.
Yeah, that's
always
fantastic.
Good to get that new and coming information from Microsoft.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they do a lot of unveiling at Ignite. So absolutely good. Cool. Well, I guess that's a quick fast forward through the last couple of months, but we hope to be on top of things a bit better going forwards, and we'll talk about Social Squared next month and so on. So
sounds good. All right,
over and out for now.
All right, been great talking to you.
You
See
too.
you next time. All right,
take care, Sandy. Bye.